First ride of the year. Feeling good, even if it's cold. Been waiting for this day for a long time. The bike feels good. Just did a top off on all the fluids on it. Make sure she's running fine. So far so good. So some of you guys might think, what is a guy that's into sport bikes doing on a cruiser? There is a little bit of a story behind this bike. Back in 2007, I did a little quick stint and worked for a motorcycle shop for about 2 weeks. So at the time, all I knew was sport bikes. I owned a 2004 R6, and then later on I purchased a 2007 R6. So I was kind of in tune with the lingo, knew the specs and all that information about other sport bikes. But when it came to the cruisers, I knew absolutely nothing. So all that stuff aside, I just remember seeing this bike on the show floor, and I was really amazed by it. It looked really aggressive for a cruiser, because anytime I think cruiser, I picture saddlebags and chrome, and this bike was the complete opposite. It had the matte black paint, the red flames. It just looked badass. So I just remember saying that if I ever had to ride a cruiser, this bike would be it. And last summer, I started kind of looking into bikes again. As far as cruisers, I'm like, hey, I wonder if I can remember what bike it was that I liked as a cruiser bike. So I started my hunt, and I finally found this bike. It took me about a month to figure out what bike it is. And I think the reason why it was so difficult is because this is like a special edition bike. So they only made, I think, 1 year or 2 years of this kind of a color scheme, this pattern. So it was kind of unique. So I finally came across it, and I think it was Pinterest or something like that I found it on. But I tracked it down, and I started looking locally to see if there were any for sale. And I found one bike that was about 45 minutes away. Very low mileage. As you can see, this one has got, what, already 4,400. But I had 4,000 miles on it. And I said, hey, oh, let me flip up my visor, fogging up. I said, hey, let me go check it out. So I got a hold of my buddy. I said, hey, come with me. I'm interested in picking up this bike. It's a cruiser. He said, sure. So we went out. And I remember pulling up to the guy's house, and I saw the bike. I got out of the car, walked up to it, and I just freaked out because I didn't realize how big of a bike it was. I just didn't remember it that way. So in my head, I'm going like, ooh, this is not going to happen. I am not getting this bike. This is way too big for me. This is not what I was expecting. But I talked to the guy. He was very cool. He was just like, yeah, you know, I got this bike, just haven't been riding it around, and just thought I should pass on the torch to somebody else that can actually use it. So a really cool guy. Got to sit in the bike a little bit, fired it up, and just liked the rumble of it. And in the back of my head, again, I'm still saying, going like, oh man, this is not going to happen. So I nearly chickened out, and I just finally said, you know what am I doing? Why am I so afraid of this bike? It's badass. I have the money. I want this bike. I can do it. It shouldn't be a problem. So I said, the hell with it. I'm good. And hopped on the bike and just started going. It was the weirdest feeling in the world. So if you've never ridden a cruiser before and you're coming off a sport bike, it's a completely different feel. Oh man, can't even compare. The weight distribution is all different. It's all towards the back. The way that you lean is different. So it was a little bit of an experience. But, you know, by the time I got home, I was pretty comfortable with it. I was leaning it like a sport bike. I mean, as far as going for turns and whatnot, I felt pretty comfortable. Just had to learn to take wider turns, because if you lean too far on the side that your exhaust is on, you will scrape it. Bike feels great, cruising pretty well, very smooth. But it is freaking cold. My hands are freezing right now. I think it's like 42 with wind chill. It's pretty strong wind today. I really cannot wait till summertime, I tell you. But anyway, so that's my story about the cruisers, how I got into them. I do have to admit that my first bike that I've ever ridden, the one that I started on, was a 1978 Honda Hawk. So I'm not the kind of person that would ever judge someone as far as what they ride. Sport bike, cruisers. I'm just a hobbyist. I love riding. Doesn't matter what it is. Woo! Nice acceleration for 1600 and for that much weight. This thing is a beast. I mean, you can't really compare it to a sport bike, but this thing does pull. This concludes our short little episode of riding the Mean Streak Special Edition.